Welcome to StaffBuffalo's Pain Points podcast, where we unravel the complexities of staffing, human resources, and other challenges faced by businesses today.
Welcome to another episode of the Pain Points podcast. I'm here with Brian Lehman from EmergenceTek Group, also known as ETG, and they specialize in outsourced IT and sometimes staffing for their clients. So Brian, why don't you tell us a little bit about what EmergenceTek does, and then if you don't mind kind of getting into how you started your career.
Thank you. So first of all, a little overview of who ETG is, and then I can kind of talk back into my history about how we started this company. We do a lot of focus around project outsourcing for our customers, as well as some staff augmentation within those teams. So I had an interesting career all in Buffalo. So Buffalo really is near and dear to me. I started my career doing software development for some major healthcare clients. Over the years, I started transitioning jobs and like everybody else wanting to grow their career. I continued my schooling, I got my MBA, and I kept thinking to myself, what's next? I'm trying to climb the corporate ladder. And in my career, what everybody finds out is they get into their management roles and they decide that management isn't always as fun as it's cut out to be. And the very first opportunity I had in the management arena was at a local organization that was just recently purchased in healthcare, and putting in long hours. And my business partner, who started the company with me, approached me and said, Brian, I'm interested in starting a business. And I said, okay, let me make sure that my family got my back, and I'm very interested in this. So we furthered the conversation, and I think within about 3 days, wow, I told my business partner, while my business partner had the ultimate vision for who ETG was originally going to become, and my business partner name is Bab Namagundu. He started the business with me in 2012. So we've been in business for 12 years, but we basically sat down to write a business plan in one day. And within 3 weeks, we were at his kitchen table trying to work on our business completely free of our current responsibilities. We knew if we were going to start this company that we were going to have to go all in. And while we knew back then we wanted to do IT projects, most companies won't let organizations that have no background or resume of experience let them come in and tackle projects. So we realized quickly that it was going to be a lot of groundwork. So about 1.5 years went by of us focusing on organizations, but instead of doing project work, we actually focused around talent. So our company started feeling like a recruitment company for the first couple of years. I think that's a lot how we met and got engaged each other in the past. So it was hard work, and we realized quickly how hard recruitment and the recruitment world is, especially in IT. Even if you have the right resources, you don't always have the right opportunities open, or you don't always have the right customers for the fit of the people with the experience that you have.
So how did you get around that pain point?
I would say a lot of hard work, searching for customers that fit our expertise. Mm-hmm. So my partner at the time, Bab, and I focused really hard, learned really early on that you need to use your relationships in your community, your relationships who you've met in your career, and lean on them to share your vision of the company so that they can help you find where you could be a good fit. And it wasn't about cold calling, and it wasn't about trying to win a client over based on what you said on a slide deck or a presentation, or how many candidates you may have, or whether even you feel that you have the knowledge to tackle their projects. It really was around sitting down and sharing the story with the relationships you've built over the years, and having them help you where they think you could be a good fit. So For the first 2 years of ETG starting our company, we actually struggled. We struggled, and I'll share this more later on, but I tried to actually quit the journey several times the first couple of years because of revenue. We were not making enough money. I had just had children, and I felt like, I can't go 2-3 years with not making any money. So luckily, we started to strike up the right conversations with some of our friends who invited us in within the few years of opening the company to start tackling what we now look at as our division for IT projects. So our first opportunity, first large opportunity happens to be out of state. So we did a lot of traveling to Ohio, and we started focusing a large healthcare organization out there, and it was that year 3 that finally set into, okay, here's the foundation and the building bricks of what you're going to become.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so then you've truly shifted the business. So you would say probably about 90-95% of that now is the consulting side.
I would say it does fluctuate between 80 and 95 of 80 to 95% of the business is now what I call project focused IT work. I would say between 5 and 20% of it is true definition of what we would call staff augmentation in the recruitment space. Mm-hmm. But staff augmentation for our company nobody goes online to find ETG as the place to go for recruitment. They engage us because of our experience and our know-how. And when we're running these projects, they recognize our ability to spot and hire good talent because we have great people in-house that can do the interviewing process, can bring in the people. So they're like, why wouldn't we have you bringing in somebody that we can manage ourselves for 6 months, for 1 year, while we're going through this growth phase in our company. So that's
great.
Yeah.
So then you've mentioned that you have a staff that fluctuates based on the client's needs. So how do you manage that? How do you manage the remote staff? How do you make sure that you are hiring the best and that they are going even to the right clients?
It's a loaded question. In the first 6 years of doing IT projects, I would have sat here and said, we hire the best, and we do. We have great people that we trust. So we used a lot of the relationships. I happen to work in 6 of the largest development shops in the local city. So I had a lot of friends to, what I'll say, not cherry pick from, but actually speak to about the vision of the company, and I brought them in, and they hired their friends. So we ended after the first 6-7 years with a pool of amazing talent. And my goal when the company was that old was to do whatever I could to maintain that specific talent, because I didn't see the future coming as quickly as it did once the remote world started. Mm-hmm. We all know once COVID hit that remote was front and center, whether we liked it or not. And while we were an organization that was prepared to be remote because we had just hired our first or second, by that time, fully remote. I think one of them was a business analyst, one of them was a developer. And the team was starting to recognize that was a viable solution for the company. So once we were all forced, in this case, to go remote, we recognized fairly quickly that the team's overall happiness went up. We noticed that the productivity remained the same. Mm-hmm. And we noticed that real quick that long-term, for a consulting agency and a project agency, that this is probably the right option for the company. So I know you didn't ask, but the challenges that comes with going to be a full remote organization are still challenges that we're working on today, because I know we're 3 years into this. Mm-hmm. And challenges are your hiring practices going to be different? And in our cases, they have been, but we're not sure if we're going to revert back to some of our older hiring practices. Instead of hiring talented that may not have been as mature as we would have liked them to be in their skill sets, we have hired more experienced folks because we needed to trust that they're doing what they're doing without someone having to look over their shoulder or train them. And I think we went that direction out of necessity because we did have a revenue, we did have a slowdown during the process. So we really focused on hiring key individuals at the time. And now that we're back in growth period, we're starting to open up the idea of how, if we do hire somebody fresh out of school, how are we going to ingest their experience into the team while getting them used to the responsibilities of working fully remote or in your house, and understanding that they have tasks to get done and that they have a team depending on them. Mm-hmm. We're just now still finalizing the conversation of what our hiring practices will be going forward, which is, I think, maturity for our company, especially after now making the change to go partial remote, and in a few months basically being full remote with maybe an office that can be used as a squatting zone.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, just kind of a shared space where you can kind of go in, meet up if you need to, or just work there if you just need to get away from maybe a little bit loud of family.
That's right. That's right.
So you were talking about the growth through the organization. Now, how have you taken it from the 1 to 2 year when you were struggling and then you did identify what your niche was? How did you take it from there, close to 10 years ago, to where it is now?
In the beginning, it's hard to say that there was a pivotal moment in the beginning, in the first couple of years, because you're struggling really
you're
to
staying
make...
above water.
Yeah, you're staying above water. And really, luckily, as I spoke to a couple of friends that happened to be my old leaders that I worked for, welcomed us into their organization to help with their projects. And then I think the years of spending running those projects is where I learned the most about how you need to properly organize your team, how you need to properly run your team, and some of the pitfalls that come with, and the mistakes that come with running projects. So I think it not just trained me, but it trained the leadership that I had chosen for the company at the time to start to understand this consulting world better, and it matured our processes over the years. So I don't think that there was a moment in time where I said, aha, I got this. Mm-hmm. It was a slow number of years of actions and activities and pitfalls that have taught us what to look out for in the future. Change in market status, or sometimes you'll spot a downfall in an economy, and you'll know now that maybe I don't want 100% FTEs on my payroll. Maybe I want 20% consultants, and that can help you when you have the downturns. And believe me, there are people out there that are looking not always just for that full-time opportunity. There's some people out there that really like the downturn if they can only work 6 to 8 months of the year, and they can do what they do best, but also enjoy their family or travel for a couple months of the year. So I think the notion of full-time is going to continue to change as the years to come because of people's wants and needs, especially when they're talented. They can control a little bit more of their destiny of what they want from their jobs and opportunities than just going to, like what I did for my career. I went to whoever would hire me full-time that paid me the most salary. And it's just, I think people are getting smarter and more talented.
Mm-hmm. And they get to really focus on what they want to do. Mm-hmm. And so you were mentioning your pretty much optimizing your organizational structure. You're optimizing your team. You're finding people's strengths and like really playing towards them so that you can use them maybe just for contract work. And it may sound pretty odd to different organizations because most organizations are not run like an IT firm. So you are dealing with people that have very high talents that can work for anyone at any time and across the world. So then how do you maintain the best? How do you keep them with you?
It's funny because I actually think I heard the answer in your question. A lot of our customers, especially the smaller mid-sized customers, turn to us, and you recognize the difference between a client who struggles to keep 3 to 5 to 7 even developers on staff because they so desperately need them. And then they ask that same question: how are you able to find the quality of talent that you are, or how are you able to maintain? Because I think our average tenure in this company is over 8 years now for a company that's only 12, 13 years old. So it really comes down to not just the health of your environment, but it comes down to, are you offering the variety of opportunities that you can to these people? I think we are blessed as an organization that because we manage and serve probably well over 100 clients, that our people may not always work on the same things, or may actually be working on 3 or 4 projects at one time. And I honestly think that comes down to, when you're that talented, if you let those talents go for a while, it just makes sense that you open your mind to other ideas, to other options. And I actually believe that, whether you want to believe it or not, that staying busy in your career and in your life does relate to some level of purpose and happiness. So I actually believe that, without knowing that's why we were creating ETG, it is one of the things that I've learned from the company myself, is that this company, and I say it all the time, that ETG is just the name, right? Even I, as the owner, I work for this company because I want to be here, not because I run it. Because I think everybody that works here cares about what they do, the customers they do it for, and the technology is all interesting to us. Did that answer your question?
Absolutely. Yep. So basically, how you structure your organization, you're always challenging people, you're always giving them the opportunity, and you're basically saying, don't worry, your brain doesn't have to rot here. Yep. We will give you opportunity, we'll give you challenges.
It's going to be my new tag.
We will not rot your brain.
Yeah.
So as you continue to grow, there's probably tons of pain points surrounding that. But you recently announced that you've had really strategic leadership changes. Would you like to kind of dive into that and maybe some of the pain points it's solved for you?
Yeah, so we've had some exciting changes here at ETG. I've run and operated this business for almost 13 years, a little over 12 years. And recently, my business partner, who I started with, Bab, decided that he had other opportunities he wanted to pursue. So Bab and I looked and had a long search for a strategic CEO to come in to replace Bab. And as recent as July 1st, we welcomed Jeff Snyder to ETG. And Jeff comes from a full background of marketing and strategy around software and software sales. So we are super excited as a team to work with Jeff, and now I share that title of co-CEO with Jeff to grow the organization. The interesting part about Jeff is he is fully remote from the West Coast.
Oh, wow.
So his relationships and his customer base, what he's used to working with, is all on the West Coast. So that should be huge for the growth of our organization. Huge. And while we as an organization continue to go to that full remote, we actually have 3 or 4 now employees on the West Coast. We don't have many customers, which hopefully will change with Jeff, but we went from 95% of our staff being in the Western New York area down to probably around 60 or 70 and in about 12 different states. We are excited that Jeff's here. I'm excited to be partnered with Jeff now. for the next chapter in ETG. And I think this is going to do wonders for the company, as well as our growth is still focused on how do we grow as many Western New Yorkers as we can, because while we're hiring everywhere, we still do have a lot of get-togethers and a foot stamp here in the local community.
Mm-hmm. So tell me, I know that there's some pain points in the tech hiring space. Do you mind going through a little bit of that?
Yeah, I'll explain it as why we do what we do. Clients, they generally feel like if there's just a position that's going to be filled for long term and they're going to be looking for their internal FTE to take on the work, while they may engage us to help find that resource, if they're working with us, they won't engage. But a lot of organizations, especially when we're going through so much what I'll call change in the amount of work that happens in the IT space, because generally what we see is in one sector, the high months of production for deployments and IT work may be Q3, Q4, but in another company, the high points are Q1, Q2. So really, as you talk about flattening the curve of your resources, is you don't want to maintain and hold, even if they're amazing employees, you don't want to fill your high points with 100% capacity. Mm-hmm. If in your low points, you have 40% of your development team sitting there doing nothing. So there is definitely a conversation there to how to help organizations work with our team, become part of their team, and then almost either lighten the load or turn down the switch during the time frames that they don't need the capacity. We jump from client to client to client depending on capacity issues, and we help flatten that curve, ultimately saving a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
So the goal is you need to find a partner that you trust, that knowledge when you pass it over doesn't just disappear. It resonates with the team, and it's something that we can attach back to when the client needs us again. And I think and this is probably why we have about a 99% retention rate with our clients, because generally after doing one project with them, we don't always have to call back because they have a direct line with their team and they know how to reach out and they know when they need us, and then the sales kind of take its own life there.
And then you just have to turn back on.
Yep.
And then it's like, here we go.
That's right. They just turn the team back on when they need them. Some people like to invite me out to lunch, and we'll do that. And then what I do is come back and start negotiating with my team. Okay, who can we bring back to the table for this client? And that's our daily life, and I love it.
Mm-hmm. You like the chaos with all the projects going on, with moving everybody into the right spots and making sure they're successful for your clients. So throughout your career, throughout growing your organization, how do you deal with the human resources function? How do you deal with any issues that may arise?
Human resources is probably one of the jobs that, as an owner, I think you naturally take on, and I still hold that responsibility. If there's any internal problems, they come to me. But really, I think in an organization like this, human resources, what I've learned is around a process of how to hire, maintain, and keep happy your employees. So I think what we do really well here is our recruitment process internally, because it's so specialized, is we look out through our relationships to hire. And generally, and I would recommend this for anybody that wanted to start good hiring practices, what I've spent my entire career is connecting with people on LinkedIn. Maybe people that I don't necessarily know, but I know they fit the fields that the company would touch, and they generally would like to connect to a business owner that would do that. So when the time comes that I'm looking for somebody, I generally look through the network that I've built over the years to see if they would be interested in an opportunity or speaking to my team. And then my team takes it over and we do several discussions with them to make sure that they're the right company fit. Do you know what you're getting involved with? Do you want to drive your career forward in this capacity? So I'm happy to say that I can think of maybe one or not even two actual human resources incidents that have happened over the years, because the team generally fits well together, they work together, and maybe it's because of the level of talent we're hiring at, but there's a certain level of maturity if you're going to work remote. So, and we have pretty high expectations. So everybody here just seems to fit, and I think hats off to my team and their hiring practices for that. So lucky, true human resource side of things in this company has been not a huge pain point, but I attribute to that part of the organizational's really core operations is around recruitment and people.
And recruiting the right people.
I
think that's really important too, because you've mentioned a few times, especially for a tech firm, you've mentioned human for recruiting. You've mentioned human for sales, and not just smile and dialing a bunch of cold calls, not just taking the first application that comes in, but being thoughtful about the process of the niche that you're going for with clients, of the type of person that would fit really well with your organization, and taking that extra time to strengthen that core need, which I think is fantastic. So.
That's right. And speaking of that, even with the new joining of the new CEO and the marketing plan that we're now looking to implement, the overall goal of that marketing plan is to get a little bit more systematic around how to grow nationally. And the large discussion is how to humanize that approach, because it's one thing to take 16 potential client meetings, but you really need to find a way to attach and show that you can be part of their branding or their vision of what they want to accomplish, and all that has to happen within a short period of time if you want to earn that trust and be supporting that new client. So how I built, back to your original question of like what was that key point, I think a large part of ETG's success is because of word of mouth. We focus so hard on doing a good job that the people that came to us because of the word of mouth. And only in the last couple of years have we built a sales team. And we have a VP of sales, which we never had. Her name is Emily. She's doing a great job. And now we're expanding on that role, and from a relationship side of sales to diving deeper into how do we market the company on who we are so that we get the right type of clients and the right type of customer focus on data engineering or data integration, anything else we specialize in, because we really love, I don't know how else to say it, but to geek out on those items.
I think that's a great way to say it. And I like everything that you're saying about how you do things and really creating that message so that the right companies are attracted to you. We say that all the time with even recruiting. You need to create that message out there so that people can find what they're going to be comfortable with. And I think that being comfortable with a client really can go a long way, because then they can trust you and rely on you, and vice versa.
That's right.
So I think that's important.
It goes back to retention,
Yes.
right? A lot of companies can get started, but I think very few, and the ones that do are successful, recognize that especially in the beginning, every customer counts. And you have to pay as much attention and make that customer feel like the most important customer in the world, no matter what the size, because you don't know when your large customer may downsize or go through a trouble spot, and they can't give you work as much as they want to. And if you don't focus on every customer, you're going to have some hard days.
I would also like to ask some advice for the upcoming entrepreneurs, for those people in the startup space. You've done it, you've bootstrapped it, you've watched many other organizations go through it. So do you have any advice for that entrepreneur?
Actually, yeah. It's funny because I think we started our organization right before the boom of, you hear of the free-flowing money and funding and the organizations that are helping young organizations grow, which has been amazing to watch. But we started right before all that. And in some of aspects, I feel like, well, that's not fair. They're getting grant money for free space and all of this opportunity, which I just thought was amazing. And then you look at the numbers and you say, wow, they had all this and still they couldn't make it because companies are hard, right? And if I was to talk to myself before I started this company, the only thing I would say is it's going to be hard. If the company gets off the ground and starts and is amazing at day one, then and I've seen it happen, but you better count your blessings and protect everything you have, because eventually you're going to go through some struggle. So our struggles were in the very beginning, and what I did for success was I tied myself to a partner who believed in the success so much that he was my cheerleader. He got me through wanting to stop the organization. And and I'm not saying to fool yourself either. I mean, if there's time and you have a family and they need you and you need to get out, I understand and respect that there's times to give up, but there's also times that just because you're struggling, even sometimes for a couple of years, if you have a vision and you believe in that vision, you have to pivot to what your customers' needs are. But ultimately, if you're driven enough, the success will come. And the biggest mistakes I think I see in people is, I'm not going to say don't take investor money or anything like that, but when you look so hard and you spend so much time building out the products, I think you forget sometimes to focus on the customer. And I don't think it's sometimes how much people spend on their organizations, but it's more of how much valuable time they spend on actually truly caring about what the customer's needs are. Spend less money, focus more on the customer and the value you can drive them up front, and the money will come, in my opinion. And then be financially responsible in those first couple of years so that you don't find yourself in a situation having to take on finding investor money or work within your boundaries, even if they're financially boundaries, and set targets for yourself. Not everything has to be perfect day one. I think that's a whole bunch of advice that I've seen over the years.
Yeah,
Yep.
And a lot of times it was even hearing you writing the whole business plan and doing that. Some people can definitely do it that way, and then other people are probably a little bit more of just the get up and go type.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as you keep going and you truly focus on your vision, I agree with you. And you mentioned families and even knowing when to stop and knowing when to just really throw your whole body behind it.
That's right.
So how do you refill your work-life balance bucket?
Yeah, I honestly think, and I'm not an expert here, I honestly think that question is almost for every individual to ask themselves, because they know how they work best. Comes down to, there are days where I know I need to be in the office focused, like today, and I need to tune out what I'll call everyday life. And there are days, and there are a lot of days, where I like to be in my life and working. So some people don't have the luxury of being remote. For those people, I would just say, if that fits you, if that lifestyle fits you, you may not have an opportunity elsewhere. So it has to fit you, and we all lived that space pre-COVID. At least I did. Mm-hmm. And what I would say to those people is find some passions outside of the workplace. In fact, I started another passion a few years back, and it was even in a hobby that I did, and I unfortunately turned it into a business. Now I have a second business in that hobby. But those passions kept me going even in my daily life, and I think I saw an article on that on LinkedIn the other day. So those passions can help your daily mindset, I believe. But in the world of remote, and the balance is, I actually feel like the company offers me personally some flexible time. I have children, and my children have responsibilities, and I like to be there for them. So there'll be a time where I need to focus on family for 2 hours in the day, and I don't take the day off. And I put the time in generally in the evening. And for me, that fits well into my lifestyle, and I feel like I'm the happiest when I know I can get things done and still get to do the things I want to do. So to me, that's work-life balance is. But I know other people, they need to set boundaries on their personal life and work, and what I've seen for other people work is they need that 8 o'clock alarm, and then they need to shut the computer off at 5. I've tried that, and it just doesn't work for me, because at 7 o'clock or 10 o'clock, I'm thinking about maybe something I couldn't accomplish because meetings got in the way or something got in the way. So I personally can't work like that. I think work-life balance is something important everybody needs to ask themselves. And in our environment at ETG, I know even if you're a software developer, there is still flexibility, I think, within our workday that you can still manage some of your time in the evening if you needed to, and still get your chores done during the day if you had to. So I think work-life balance has to be looked at in your whole life picture. If you have a family, what does your family need from you? What does your partner need from you? And how will that work so that you can get the best happiness within your environment? I think it's an important question, and I think it's a personal question, and I think you should strive for that in your workplace, because if they have a vested interest in you being happy, because if you're happy, you're the most productive, period.
That's true. Yep. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing this podcast interview with me for the Pain Point Podcast. And where can we find you? Where can we find ETG? Give us your socials and your website.
Well, first off, you're welcome. Maggie and I have been friends probably
for 10 years.
Yeah. Yep. Most of the time I've been doing this. So I think we've looked at each other as mentors. And so I personally thank you for that, which is why I said yes to this right away.
Thank you, Brian.
But the best way to reach me is honestly LinkedIn. If you want to shoot me an email, if you wanted to have a discussion, I'm always downtown Buffalo. Our current resting spot, our office, which may be in different locations in the downtown and soon to be, but is in downtown, and I'd love to meet for coffee. I invite anybody to reach out to me, even if it's just a question, because I am known to help people, and sometimes I'll choose helping people into more other responsibilities I have, going back to work-life balance, but it is where I get personal joy. So I welcome any contact.
So we've known each other so long that I've even convinced you to join the InfoTek board, which you've been a member of the board for many years,
yes.
And you are actually the chair of the InfoTek betas. Can you tell us what the InfoTek betas are?
Absolutely. So InfoTek, first of all, the date is October 2nd on a Wednesday. I strongly recommend, if you're in IT, if you have a passion for IT, if you want to feel out what the IT community is, this is the place to be.
So much fun.
Yes, this is probably the best, I'll say, party of the year. But what it really does is it focuses on our local community, and it focuses on talent in our local community. And we have it's an awards ceremony to award talent that is chosen by the community. So this is people that may be the best project manager, or people that focus the best in their arena, the best IT team, the best services team. This event is so much fun, and I probably think is the best event to come to if you're looking to get into the community, you're looking to see what IT is about in Buffalo. I strongly promote this environment. I took the responsibility, thanks to Maggie, on doing this, and it's like planning a mini wedding every year. So come out, because it really is a blast.
You're just practicing for the girls.
Yeah.
But it's a great time. And at first they have the whole vendor showcase. That's free. You can come, you can be a vendor, you can look at all the local vendors. And then we have the big celebration where we actually give out the awards.
Yeah, and one place to look for this is, do check out LinkedIn. There's been plenty of promotional items on this for promoting who the beta winners will be. If it's not too late when you see this video, please go out there and vote for your best candidates, and I will see you October 2nd.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of the Pain Points Podcast. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to follow us so you never miss out on future episodes.